On today's Toy Spot, we're going to be having a look at the Transformers Generations Autobot Drift. I don't know very much about Drift. As far as I know, I think he is the comic addition to this wave, only appearing in the comics. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I don't know too much about Drift. Package kind of have a picture of Drift up the top corner. Kind of looks a bit like Tigatron too from Beast Wars. On the back of the package, again, kind of looks like Tigatron. We got him in his sports car mode as well as his robot mode. And the read-up says Autobot Drift used to fight for Megatron and was known as one of the most terrible warriors ever to stalk the face of Cybertron. Something happened that changed him, bringing him home all the horror he had inflicted. Since then, he's hunted the Decepticons from one end of the galaxy to the other, bringing his own brand of justice to the evil robots. Looks to be he's, I guess, part samurai. Kind of cool. So let's not wait. Let's get this guy opened up. And we'll have first a look at him in his sports car mode, and then we'll transform him into robot mode. So there's plenty to come, and don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. And as mentioned, we'll start the review in vehicle mode first. Kind of a decent looking vehicle. He seems to be like a cross between a Jazz and a Wheeljack, just in the design of the vehicle. He's got, I would imagine that to be Cybertronian on the side. Of course, some flame work as well. Just due to the way he's the transformation, I guess, it probably was deliberate, but it's kind of neat that within the windshield, it looks to me like you can see a couple of seats, which I think is kind of cool. And he's got these clear blue headlights as well. There's not really much to be said in vehicle mode. If you like cars, he is definitely a nice looking car. Rolls really well also. He does come with a sword, which I'll probably talk about a little bit more when we transform him into robot. The sword is pliable. It's like a rubbery plastic. Some people like these, some people don't. The fact that they use this material, at least it's not going to break. Whereas if it was a plastic, you never know, you might bend it or snap it or whatnot. One thing in vehicle mode, which is nice, is that he's got two little clips in his waist area and then further up that you can actually take the sword and snap it into place. So at least if you intend on having him in vehicle mode, you don't have to worry about losing his sword. So that's a nice little added touch. I don't know. Again, I don't know too much about the character, so I don't know if he's necessarily one I would pick up unless I had picked up the wave. Vehicle mode, very basic, but still works pretty well. I'm going to give the vehicle mode a 5. So let's transform him into robot mode, and let's see how good he looks there. So, and in robot mode, he still kind of bears a resemblance to Tigatron, or Tigertron. I think it's Tigatron from the Beast Wars cartoon. Transformation actually is one of the more easier of the ones in this first wave. I'd probably say that Optimus Prime is still the hardest, and then Bumblebee being the second. Thrust is pretty easy, but Drift here is pretty easy to transform. I don't know if I like him necessarily in robot mode. I find he's notorious for what it seems to be, to have all these extra pieces that kind of just seem to get in the way. I don't know if it's just necessarily me that's seeing it, but I don't know. I just think he could have been a little bit better. The side sword holsters aren't too bad. but they kind of get in the way of the arms. I mean, when you have it to the point where the arms are down, I don't know. I find it's just all excess clutter. Perhaps if there was something else you could do with these shoulders. I mean, you can have the shoulders further back. It doesn't detract as much, but it is all this extra stuff that I find is just it clutters. At least for me, I find it clutters Drift. It just makes him look too like he's got just too much going on. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Who knows? But as mentioned, he's got those side holsters that house these little blades that you can pull out, put them in his hand. It's kind of cool. I like that. A little extra play value out of it. Of course, he's still got his sword, and if you're not inclined to want to have him holding the sword, you can still have him. You can still have the sword behind him as well. Again, adding to that samurai feel that I guess they're doing with Drift here. We'll put the sword in his hand, and they've given him just enough articulation that you can have him. If I can get it to go here, you can actually have him holding the sword in both hands. Makes for a bit of a dynamic pose if you can get it the pose right. At least you can have him holding his sword. Can you tell I'm somewhat underwhelmed by this figure? I don't know if it's just probably the fact that maybe if I read about him in the comics, I'd be more interested in him. But while I do like the face, and I like the fact he's got lots of articulation, it seems, and I like the side swords, I just find between the holsters and the shoulder pads, it just seems too cluttery. Speaking of articulation, he has articulation in the head. You can move it left and right. He has a lot of range of movement in his shoulders. And you rotate the arms, you can bend the elbows, you can rotate the hand. You can't really rotate the waist, but you can move the legs in and out, back and forth. You can bend the knee. The foot also allots for some additional articulation. So getting him in a pose is pretty easy. Personally, I would have never picked this guy up. As nice of a Transformer as he is, I would have never picked him up, I think, unless I had just bought the Wave from Big Bad Toy Store. He's an alright Transformer, but I guess being that I just have no invested interest in the character, or I don't know enough about the character, and all this extra clutter, I think just makes for something that I personally think you can pass on. In robot mode, I'm going to maybe give him a 5. Somebody's probably going to say, oh, you really should give him higher than that, but I'm going to give Drift here a 5. So that was a Toy Spot. Today we're looking at the Transformers Generations. Today we're looking at Autobot Drift. He's alright. He's alright. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Later.